My body becomes like a cement. Oh my God.
That was the better one.
Okay. Oh my God. It's like magic. Literally like magic.
And although it may seem a little mundane, packing up boxes and being on the assembly line, what we're really doing is putting in hundreds of hours into the people on the streets who need us. And they need us in a way that none of us will ever understand. And for the last couple of weeks, I've been on the grounds every day. They know we're coming today, they know we're coming tomorrow, and they look forward to seeing us because we're the one little bit of hope that they have to have a warm meal in their bellies and to know that somebody in the world is actually caring for them and loving them. And without people like you showing up today to give your time, your energy, and your spirit, none of this is possible. So I want to really say thank you to everyone, because what we're doing here today may seem small, but it's actually really, really big, and it's impacting hundreds and thousands of families. So I thank you, I love you, I look forward to doing this with you today.
My name is Serena Buffalino, and I am the founder of Help Heal Humanity. Help Heal Humanity is a charity that is focused on unconditional giving, love, and support to some of the most vulnerable communities in the world.
Not my skill set, nor do I want to learn it.
Sometimes, because I put up stuff which I kind of test
in the wilderness. I don't know if I was the best one to teach them that. However, and although it was a really
that when you said, I was like, oh,
the baby out with the bathwater.
I do know where that.
So for me, rather than doing something half-heartedly or like just half.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing this morning?
I am doing wonderful, great, and spectacular.
Me too. Me too.
Oh, I'm so pumped up today because, and I love, I'm going right into it. I know. I love having our guests, and you do such a magnificent. Let's give a hand right now. I have to give a hand. You can find some. Woof. I was like, "What does she do this? She's good. You're good talent. What they call like a talent agent or something." You're good at that. You're really good at that. People get paid for that, but that's a side note. But you bring on such wonderful guests, time to shine. But as we stated, and everybody that listened to us this morning or the replay, that we're gonna do our thing today. Me and the other queen here, the BBs, are going to really be taking like a takeover show today, and we're going to see that a few times throughout the month of just talking about certain subjects and topics that we both really enjoy talking about, and it kind of flows into our business of what we do for people. Yeah, Barbara, I'm excited about the topic today. It's called Rewinding Your Mindset. Why personal growth demands change. So before we get into that, because this is good, because this is something that I always have to give kudos where it goes. This is where Barbara comes in, because we always have conversations. She always giving her wisdom. Her wisdom just flows with me. And she mentioned about change and some things that's going on. I said, "Oh, that'd be good if we do a show on that." So Barbara, I want you to kind of tell them who you are and what you do, and then we're going to go from there.
Absolutely. When people ask me that, I just think, I always just think of myself as just a normal person. And, and the thing is that we are, but we also have areas that we're passionate about. And several years ago, a friend of mine asked me, "Well, Barb, what do you want?" And I said, "You know what, Nicole, I just want people to be happy." Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, but how do you do that? That became my big mission, to make happiness the norm rather than the exception. That became my thing. And just God just brought it into my heart that I want people to be happy. So, and the things that basically though, there's three things that go into happiness. Personal identity, knowing who you are within what you do or within your family or all of those kinds of things, but also your physical well-being, but then also your financial well-being. We all have bills to pay, and so those are the three things. Well, then as I've gotten older myself, I've realized that, like so many people who are facing retirement, they're struggling in one of those areas. Yeah. And so that's where your wellness playroom came in, for the best version of you, to be the best version of you. When you are the best version of you, that adds to your happiness. Every day you're not, all giddy and stuff, but you're happy, you're content, you have joy. And that's what God meant for us to have, is to have joy in our lives. So now it's just been such a blessing to learn, but I had to learn how to do that for myself. Because after David died, I realized that I had no idea of who I was outside of all the labels that I had put on myself. Of being like a daughter, and then being a wife, and then being a mother, and then being a divorced failure, and then being a successful wife again, and then being, a grandmother and a business owner. And then I was a widow. Who's Barbara and all of that? Yes. And I realized that, yike, who else is struggling with it? Especially corporate type people. Who are they outside of their job title or their job description? And what are they going to do when they don't have the corporate paycheck? But that's where change comes in, and change is scary.
So we're going to pin it. I want to pin that for a minute before we get into it, because we're hopping right into it. And I love what you said. I love how you took on something that you wanted to give to the world, and then you explain yourself what you do for the world. And this is why we flow so well, because you wanted to see people happy. You just wanted to understand, who they are and what they do, and just be happy. And then also, like you said, understand who their truly purpose is, what they're supposed to do. Well, that's me. And it's on the other end spectrum. I'm like, I want people to know that they're worthy. I want people to understand that you were put on this earth for a purpose, and not just to be just floating around the world saying, I don't know who I am, because there's something there, like you said. And once you figure that out, it is not just the title. See, that's the other thing I'm glad that you mentioned. It's not just, like you always say this, Barbara, we have all these titles and stuff on us, but that is not who you are. That's not really your true purpose. And once you figure that out, that brings the happiness, that brings the love that you have, because you're going to start with yourself, right? And then it reaches to others. And like I said, I help people with that, but then I add a little bit more flavor to it by saying, okay, now you have to be seen. And that's where the visibility part comes in from my end perspective of it. And when it comes down to change, like you mentioned about when your lovely or wonderful husband transitioned, you had to make that decision. It was like, okay, I'm at the crossroad right now. So what do I do?
Yeah. And one of the things I think of why you and I gel so much too, and why this show is successful, is that I believe that has visibility. We, as I said, we all have bills to pay. We all do. However, if you are in a profession or a job title or whatever that is, people are not going to know. People cannot buy from you or get into your services if they don't know who you are, what you do, and why you do it. And I think that is why you and I gel so much, because that's where you are. You want people to be visible for what they do, who they are, and for why they do it. Because I think that's one of the things where so many people, they stop. They tell people about who they are and what they do, but they don't tell people about why they do it. And people now, I think, have gotten so much more. They want authentic people. They don't want to just buy a product. I mean, they don't want to just deal with a Me Too company. They want to deal with a company that has a mission. They want to deal with companies that feel the way that they do. And more people are waking up to that. They want to have a bigger impact in the world than just doing, like just their own little world. And we have to start in our own world. Absolutely. And one of the things that I share lots of times with my people is that, think, start locally, but think globally. Think globally about what you do and what do you do that can impact globally. And some people go, oh, but how can you think that way? Well, it's a process, but you start with one step. I never thought that this show would be on 5 years later, but we started with one concept, and we started on Facebook Live. And look at how far we've come. But you just start. Take the one step. Like yesterday, I was on a podcast, and one of the questions was like, how do you keep people to be motivated? And I said, well, number one is just people think to be motivated, you have to think this big vision all the time. Yes, you have to know your end vision. You have to know what you want, where your basic goal is. But for me, it's like, hey, I want to make happiness the norm in the whole world. Well, that's not going to happen in one day. So, but what's one step that you can take towards it? But then once you take that one step, and then to your point, like for me, it's take the first step, meet somebody like you that also sees it the way you do. Okay, so now we've got two of us. What can we do? What can we do to move to a next step? Yes. And that's how it grows. And that's where, because then once you have company, magic happens.
Yeah, it's like poosh. I always say boom.
Like, but it's
blow up. Yeah, it's amazing, and I love how you said that, Barbara. Where, like you said, you have that vision, and it don't have to start right there. Everything. That was that. Yeah, we got to unpeel that. Everything starts with that little seed.
The first thought.
That first thought, and either going back, because we're going to keep going back and forth to about change and how that happens personally, and it gets out there. So it always starts with that first thought, that first seed, if you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. And it's going to take up to you to water it, to say that it's important to keep it going. And either you say, well, you know what, that thought was bleh, whatever. And sometimes, it might not work, but then sometime it might. Maybe just ask yourself, how about if it does work?
Exactly.
Start somewhere. Why do you always got to say, that doesn't work? And that's why I tell people, why don't you just try it out and see? Why don't you ask the questions? And then, like Barbara said, you might find somebody similar, thinking maybe the same thought or same kind of concept, and you two come together.
Right. And one of the things that comes to mind. Okay. So Benjamin Franklin, when was he? He was the one that he said, wouldn't it be cool to harness lightning? Electricity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then Thomas Edison had thought, wouldn't it be nice if we could harness electricity and bring a light bulb? Here we are. And we can talk to somebody across the world and have a live conversation with them. That did not start. All of this did not start yesterday, but it started with Benjamin Franklin back saying, gee, I wonder if we could harness light. And then Thomas Edison saying, gee, I wonder if we could have a light bulb. To even have that thought. It's those thoughts that are God-given. Then you have to, exactly what you just said, nurture the thought.
Yes,
Thomas Edison did not do it by himself.
No,
he had a team because they all fed on each other. It's like Albert Einstein. They all fed on each other. And now, of course, Albert Einstein, quantum physics, they know more about the universe and more people. Then you got Jack Hawkins, who is out there of just studying the universe. And now they know that the universe is expanding. Wow, that did not happen without the star guy back in the days.
And like you said, it started with, and you know what? When you were talking, Barbara, I was just thinking about all, like you said, the inventors and the people that had those thoughts, like Thomas Ellison and everybody, that they had to have the patience. Because think about how many times I think it was
over thousands of times.
I mean, over and over. And it wasn't just like 5 or 6 times. I was like, okay, there's light. I mean, they basically had to do it thousands and thousands of times. So looking at us, how long do we say to ourselves, okay, 2 times, forget it, I'm done, and move forward, right?
Exactly. And things happen, and life is a roller coaster. That's what I did a TikTok on yesterday. Life is a roller coaster, and sometimes you're going to be at the height of, like this week, I'm having a really good week. A couple of things have happened, like over this summer, I have had a couple of challenges that were like, okay, I'm going to survive it. And now, today, I think the last couple of them are going to fall into place. Okay, that happens. We all have things that happen to us, and it has impacted, other things. Yes, we all have those, but then we have the things that are celebrating. So this week, I'm celebrating getting that done. I'm celebrating. We're adopting a new little 4-year-old into the family, so that's going to be on Friday. And it's the 2 things in life. We're getting a new family member, and I'm saying goodbye to a friend, because we're having a wake in the afternoon. But then in the evening, I'm going to see the Bee Gees, a tribute to the Bee Gees. And I love the music of the Bee Gees.
I said, oh, I'd like to go to that. But Barbara, you said the 4-year-old. I mean, I want to go back because now I'm curious. Is it like a puppy or?
No. We've had her since before she was 3, and her mother died. And so we've been fostering her. She's been part of the foster family. We have foster cats, foster dogs, and we have foster children. And so now she's going to be becoming a permanent member of the family rather than the foster. And she's cute. And I'm going to have to tell you, I'm a brand partner for a wellness company, and so I get product all the time. And in my product, all my product comes wrapped in bubble wrap.
Mm-hmm.
So last week, rapping on the door, Grammy, rapping on the door, Grammy, rapping on the door, Grammy. Yes, Nova, but because I was busy, I think I was doing a podcast or something. It's like, but what, life happens. I opened the door. Yes, Nova, how are you this morning? She said, bubble wrap, bubble wrap. She loves bubble wrap because she knows I get bubble wrap, and it was just the funnest thing. So I have a little pail but she knows she has to ask. For the bubble wrap. And then it was like, Nova, what's the rule of bubble wrap? Yes, Grammy, I have to do it in the garage and not do anything in front of Trixie. And Trixie is one of the dogs, and Trixie just goes ballistic. And she starts with the bubble wrap. So those are the rules. Very good. So you know the rules, and here's your bubble wrap. And she, thanks, Grammy. And so off she toddles. And it's fun. I mean, I live in a multi-generational family.
Yes, I mean you should know all different type of generations because you're from all different areas of the age spectrum. Yeah, and that's so sweet. Oh, that's nice. Wow, 4 years old, taking on a 4-year-old.
But she's 4. I mean, Cara and Brent are adopting her, but I'm Grammy, and last week we were sitting. It was like, oh, do you want to read a book? Oh yeah, let's read a book. Okay, so I said, well, go get your book. Well, she comes back with 5. Of course. Okay, fine. I guess we're going to read 5 books. And then, of course, and she's 4. So then she, of course, says to me, well, I want to read. Okay. And so she's, and I mean, like, she doesn't know words. She knows, she knows what things are because you can look at pictures. But then it's fun. So, but it's been just such an awesome thing in our lives. But, but it's change too. It's a change.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah, I was about to go in there with the change that we're talking about.
And some of the kids have left, and some of the kids have left and come back, and
what you said, Barbara? They left and came back.
And which is fun, which makes for but right now we're down to 8. We were at 15, but now we're down to 8. So no, I take that back. I think we're back up to 9. I think we're back up to 9. Because one has come back.
I like how you say, well, we were down, but now we're up again some more.
It kind of fluctuates. But you know what? It's a bustling household. It's a bustling household. And it's like, and if you don't do change well, oh, yike.
I was about to say, you got to be prepared.
You got to be prepared. But that's where personal growth comes in. So let's talk about the subject of the day is personal growth and changing. So often people are so afraid of change. And yet it is absolutely the most constant thing in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it can change in a heartbeat. And I will bring up one sad part of change. When David died, I had taken care of him for 2 years. So I had 2 years to adjust a little bit to the change that he was not going to be with us. My best girlfriend, who I met after David had passed away, her husband dropped dead in front of her.
Was that
Pat? That was Pat.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, I tragically lost her.
Yeah.
My life changed when David died. Here, Pat and we did so much together. And then she died. Talk about, that's the sad part of change. But then there's the happy side of change. So there's the two sides of it.
Yeah.
And we all have a choice of how we are going to respond to, because those are the two sides of change. It's either forced on you, you have time to change, or it is just instant, immediate.
That's I'm glad how you brought that up, because you're right. It's either you have time to really just settle into it and kind of get to it and say, okay, I got to get my mind frame, get this wrapped, like I say, wrapped around my head, as they go saying, or boom, just like that. And you're like, what, and either way, you got to make that decision, right?
Right. And for me, like David, I had 2 years. With Pat, I had 10 minutes. She was tragically killed in a car accident. Well, that was on the Saturday before we had a live show. I had a live show with her. Now what? And in that moment, I had to decide. And I had our guest for that week, Jason, and I sent him a text and said, I am so sorry. Pat has been tragically killed and I'm not going to do the show. He said, oh, Barb, I totally understand.
Yeah, definitely.
But then Pat, like, what do you mean you're not going to do the show? She's in my head. What do you mean you're not going to do the show? You're going to do the show. And I sent back to Jason and said, Jason, could you come on as the guest host? We will explain what has happened. And just to give and to do like a closing type of show that we were going to close off the show because Pat was no longer with us. Well, 3 years later, I was still doing the show with Jason.
Never.
And and right now it's on hiatus because we're revamping. He's revamping some stuff that he's doing, and I'm revamping some things that I'm doing. Talk about changing of my branding. I'm to the point where I'm looking at logos and colors and for my personal brand of my wellness playroom for the best version of you. And so this has been so many changes, and some of them have been really good, and some of them have been heartbreaking, and some of them have been tough, and some of them have been like, Barbara, what were you thinking?
I wanted to go back to when you said about, you were going to cancel the show, and then you heard her voice. And that's happened to me so many times where, like you said, you had a loss or there was a breakup or whatever, like you said, the sad part about it. But then when you really know that person, and they come to your mind, this is where this is kind of like a legacy type of thing too. When you know that person, how they are, and they would want you to continue on or whatever you're doing, if you would with them together, or if they believed in you so hardly, they said, no matter what, you keep doing what you need to do. That's where I think that's just amazing when that happens, because there's been times when I was like, well, I can't do it. I just, this just happened or whatever. And then I hear my mother's voice, right? Because my mother was always full force. So she always had me in my mind full force. So when I say, well, I don't know, this happened and and I just got to take, I'm like, no, you're going to continue on. You're not going to sit there. You know how I am, Barbara. See, now this is her talking to me in my head. So you need to do this. And the same with Pat, she was a force to be reckoned. She was amazing. I'm so glad I got a chance to know her and meet her and have her on the show. And me and her, I still have that clip of me and her when she was on my show. I keep it because it's so nice to hear it and listen to her and listen to her voice and her wisdom and her knowledge. And she was just amazing. And, I look at that and like you said, something to happen tragically like that person, they remind you through what they've done to keep moving forward, because that's what they were doing. Right. So I'm so glad that her voice was in your head, because that continued. And then would have created another show with Jason. So there we go again. You never know what's going to happen with change.
You never know what happens with change. And so that's why sometimes it's like, why are we, I think, and this is we want to give you some tips and just some insights into why sometimes it is so hard to change. We need to.
Can we do a quick sponsor before we do the tips?
Sponsor some love
for that, and then we'll come up with some tips. But I'm really enjoying this conversation, and just let everybody know, if you just chimed on, because I've seen some people this chimed on. This is Barbara Beckley, Barbara Ellison, the BBs. We're doing our own thing today, and it's called Rewinding Your Mindset, Why Personal Growth Demands Change. We've been talking about some things within our lives that has changed and how we basically walk through that. So when we come back from our sponsor, because we got love on our sponsor, we'll give you some tips about that. So we will be right back once they pop up. I don't see them. Oh, there they are.
Good Friday, everyone. Your real worth isn't defined by your net worth. What makes you valuable is how you use what you have been given. All of us have gifts. Make sure you're making the most of yours. Have an amazing Friday.
It is now the bottom of the hour. I'm excited to welcome Nancy Matthews to our program today. Nancy is an author of a book. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it in the carousel for you guys. There it is, The One Philosophy. We're going to talk to Nancy not only about the re-release of the book, but also what it's been like for her to share the message with all of you guys. Nancy, great to have you on with us.
Hello, hello, hello. So happy to be here.
No, me too. And I like our intro music. Okay, we are back. We're back. So if you're just coming in, I always want to make sure if you're just new coming into our wonderful show, Time to Shine Happiness Show, we come on every Wednesday, 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And I always tell people find out the other time zones. Just getting the 2 is enough for me right now. But we are here to basically to make happiness the norm and not the exception. That's the biggest thing. We talk about a lot of stuff, but that is the mission. And that's from my wonderful queen right here that I'm co-hosting with. That's her mantra. So with that, we're talking about rewinding your mindset. So Barbara, we're going to give some tips.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we said in the first one, just start. Just start. Do one thing.
That's an easy tip.
Just start. But why? I think so often people, it's like, well, they don't quite understand why they are resisting change. And I think I personally believe that that's an important thing to know why we resist change. We all do. All of us know we know why we do it. And on the other side of it, but so often we don't stop to, well, that's just the way I am. But okay, but why are you that way? And most of the time it starts with fear. It's fear of the unknown, and I think the biggest thing is they doubt their own ability. So if you are doubting your ability to succeed in something new, and then find that person. We talked about it in the first one. So tip number 1 is if you feel like if you're afraid of something, find that one person. Like I think I've realized we've given tips in the first, but didn't really realize.
That's what I said. We've been kind of flowing in it.
But find somebody to either teach you or collaborate with you to get the skill. Because once you have even one iota of skill, it makes the change easier. Because lots of times it's the fear of the known. It's that fear of the familiar routine. But I've always done it this way. The story that comes to mind is the story of the daughter that always cut the ends off the hams. One day her husband came to her and said, "Why do you always cut the ends off the ham?" She said, "Well, because my mother always did it." So she went to her mother and said, well, why do you always cut the ends off the hem? And her mother said, well, I don't know. I just did it because my mother did it. Went to her grandmother and said, why do you cut the ends off the ham? And her grandmother said, well, because I didn't have a pan big enough for the ham, so I cut the ends off. But
I love that story.
Their life. I love that story. But it illustrates what happens to people. They get so used to doing it a certain way that when if it's forced on them, or in that case, that was a funny one, and people can laugh at it. But sometimes change is not funny.
Yeah. And how many times have, like you said, within that, going back to that story real quick, how many times have you, like you said, doing something over and over again and don't know the full story of it on why it's being done that way?
Why?
Yeah. And that's why it's nice to get the whole, picture of it. So you can say, well, wait a minute, we can just tweak here, or this is the reason why. So why don't we just get this? I mean, all this time, just get the bigger pan,
just get a bigger pan.
And then we're done. We don't be cutting this thing off no more. We don't have to cut it no more.
Cutting off. And I think one of the biggest things too is that people resist change because they're so used to their habits. And I know, and I've done that myself, that you're so used to the way you've done things. And then all of a sudden somebody shows you a different way. It's like, but I like my way of doing it. And then all of a sudden it's like, ooh.
Well,
we need to.
I was just thinking when you said that, because there's more change. I feel like, well, there's been change like you said, it's always forever in life, and periods has changed
every day.
But I think it's been going faster and faster as we go through life. And we're like we're in the millennium. I mean, we're more than the millennium, 2024. So when you think about it, I'm just going to pick a year, 1960, and then we're talking about 2024. And let's say that broad gap, how
much has changed.
And this do. So, I mean, now changes are happening every second of the day now. I mean, just talking about technology and talking about the way things are being done. I mean, look at GP chat, AI, all this kind of stuff. It's just taken. So I think I'm saying all this because I listen to people and I see, because I'm working corporate during the day, so I'm always seeing everything going on. And people get fearful because they're like, okay, my job somewhere down the line is my job won't get taken away because of all these quick changes that can get stuff done just like this, where maybe on a human side, it's going to take us a little longer, be it, I don't care what age you are. So right there and there, people will start, like you said, kind of just using that. They want to resist. Yeah. They don't want to think about it. They be like, well, why do we have to do it like that? Then they think of all these ways that's just horrible. Oh, this doesn't work. It's going to break down. I mean, I hear it all the time. Right. And I think for me, because sometimes they come and ask me, well, they call me Elder Barbara. They call me Elder. They said, well, let's talk to Elder Barbara. and I come with, well, it looks like I'm Elder. I give them the wisdom. I said, change. I turn into you. Let's just say that. I said, change is going to happen all the time. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. They said, but Barbara, why are you so calm and collected about it? I said, because I've been doing this for a long time. I've seen it happen. I know, and what's going to happen is going to happen, because sometimes you're not going to be able to stop certain things. It's just going to happen. I mean, when they created the typewriter,
oh, yes.
Okay. And then, but some people think that's Smithsonian, it's in the, and then they created that, then the word processor, then the computer, then laptop, then the phone, then your watch. I mean, look at how things progressed. Do you think I was beating up everybody and hitting everybody and telling everybody, yeah, at the beginning, because I was like, wait a minute, I'm used to this, like you just said. Right. Exactly. But after a while, when you're growing with it and you're getting older too, and you see it, it's like, okay, either I can keep resisting,
right,
and get upset about it and make my life just go whatever, or like you said, Barbara, like you always say, or you make a choice.
And that's where personal growth comes in. And once you have decided And it is a decision. When you have decided to be a person of growth, then it does make the change a little bit easier. Mm-hmm. You still have to go through the learning process and be willing to go through the learning process and go through the processes of where, ooh, shouldn't have done that. That didn't work out so well. Okay, forgive yourself and go on. Oh, well, this one worked sort of. Maybe I could get some help with that. Or, wow, this was the best thing since sliced bread, and let's help everybody else do the same thing. Mm-hmm. Those are all the parts. But then you have to deal with the people around you that are looking, the ones that are looking at you saying, what are you thinking? That is just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So you have to deal with peer pressure. But then it's like, so you have a choice there. Okay, yeah. I'm either going to let them stop me or I'm going to go on without them. I'll tell you one story. I don't know if I shared this with you. Steve Jobs. Back in the day, long before Apple and all of that, he took a calligraphy course. Mm-hmm. And people looked at him and said, you're a kind of a nerdy kind of guy. Why on earth would you take a calligraphy course? Mm-hmm. And he said, just because, well, it's interesting, and I think I should. It's just something in me. And kind of why not? I can imagine him saying that because he kind of didn't. He didn't really care what people thought. So, and which is a big thing, which is part of the lesson too. Don't care what the other people think about what you're doing. If they have an issue with it, that is their issue, not yours. And that's for somebody. If you have somebody that has an issue with what you're doing, it is their issue, not yours. Okay, so back to Steve Jobs. So he takes this calligraphy course and practices it and does it and likes it. Comes along and they got the first word processors. Well, they only had one font. And Steve Jobs said, nah, where do you think all the fonts came from? Because Steve Jobs took a calligraphy course.
Wow. See?
And that's the story behind why we have fonts.
Now we got a whole lot of them too.
and now it's, but his first invention, his first thing had a font it had a font. And that's why we have fonts everywhere. You can get fonts for everything. And now they're coming up with new fonts and they're all different names. And, and then you have the calligraphy type of ones, you have the regular ones, and now they all mean something. And, that's what I'm looking at right now as part of my branding part is that the fonts, they mean things. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay. But that's part of change. Can you imagine if we didn't have fonts? And if we didn't have Steve Jobs.
Yeah. And sometimes just looking at individuals like Steve Jobs and others gives you that, I'll say like permission or the hope and idea that you can do the same thing. That's what I love when people just break out of the norm and say, I'm going to do something totally different than this other whatever. And they just go for it. And they don't care who says what or whatever. They just doing. And you never know what's going to come out of that. So there's so many things that's been created because people did that. So why not?
Yeah. So why not you? I mean, it's look at in sports. All the experts and all the know-it-alls and all the gurus said that no human being could ever run faster than a 4-minute mile. Until Roger Bannister did it. And then within a couple of months, whole bunch, and now people do it regularly.
I know.
They break the 4-minute mile.
I know. I was like, whoa.
And, and it's like, all it takes is one person to see something with a slightly different way. So that change, that's where getting a team comes together so that you can all work together. So don't be worried about what other people are saying. Find the people who think like you do. Like you and I, when we first met, we were in a group together. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it was like, gee, and you had the idea to do, let's do a show. Mm-hmm. And I went, Sure, let's do a show. And here we are. But if you hadn't asked, or if you hadn't have had the thought to say, ooh, let's create a show.
And it just to go back to that, now you're telling our story. When you understand the potential and you see it, the potential of a person, even before the thought of what you can do with them, because that's what happened with us. I mean, I met you and your spirit and your love just absorbed, and it just was there. And I just knew it was something, because it was, you were a speaker. I was, you were getting into that. I was doing my thing with, with the group that I was with. And you came to, basically the meetings, and we just met through there. And then you kept coming. And I was like, okay, well, that's good. She's connected. I love it. So to me, I'm like networking, connection. I'm meeting another like-minded person that is really brilliant. Still didn't really understand what we were supposed to be doing together, but I just knew we need to stay with this networking. Well, then, I kind of broke out and said, okay, now it's time to do my brand. That's basically what happened. So I kind of, moved away from that meeting of that particular brand, but I still was.
But we still kept in contact.
I still make sure I was keeping in contact with you. I was seeing you on, because you started doing like your daily or
Instagram. Yeah.
And I said, oh, there's Barbara. I got to make sure. And I kept saying, every time I see your face, like, I got to make sure I keep in contact with her. I want to keep seeing what she's doing. Still didn't know exactly what we should be doing, but I just knew that I needed to keep in contact with you. And I'm saying all this because sometimes it's a process. You might not know what you're going to do with that individual, but don't give up. Don't give up and say, well, that was just whatever. You never know. The timing might not be there. Things might be changing within both of your life, whatever the case may be. Exactly. So you want to make sure that you understand that timing and don't just write it off real quickly. Because we could have both wrote off and said, okay, it was nice knowing you, and then moved on into our own whatever. But we didn't do that. And now for 5 years, we've been having this show and really supporting each other in different avenues of our business life and personal. And another thing is when you start building a relationship, a friendship, it might go one way. Like we start off with the business, the show and everything. We started doing that. And then we found we met each other, got deeper. And now we understand we're tied into our beliefs of God and Jesus. And to me, that's more powerful than even, I'm just going to be honest, than the show, to have that connection with you and I. So you never know where that connection is going to even grow even more deeper. So now I have a sister that I love, in God. So it's amazing. It's amazing.
Right.
But you gotta let the process happen. And all everything I was saying, that whole thing, all those ifs and flows, those were all changes. That just didn't happen like this. So
Yeah. And one of the things that I share with people is that, we want change to be like this.
Most time it ain't gonna happen.
That's not going to happen. Because you can be at point A and B, you might even get to C, but then you come back to A minus. And maybe you go down to D minus, or maybe you might even get to G minus and go, ooh, what am I doing? Okay, let's come back up to A, and so life does not go up like this. Life goes up here, up, down, up, back up again, down. And okay, so now you're a little higher, but you're going around in circles.
I think I do more than that comes with me a lot.
Let's go around this mountain one more time. Because it's in those moments that we learn about us. We learn who we are. We learn our trust in ourselves, trusting our intuition that we know what to do, to get in touch with that inner source of our being, that we can have hope and joy and peace and patience, and we can be kind. All of those things come with personal growth, but we only do that through adversity sometimes.
Yeah.
It's in the hard times that we learn resilience.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the biggest, people often say to me, well, Barb, what's the biggest thing for change? It's like, well, resilience. To know that you can change, and it might be a little change. It might be a life-changing change. Whoa. And it can happen in an instant.
Yeah.
However, you do go on. And I think that, and it comes back to a choice. It all comes down to the choice.
Always. Everything we're saying always comes back to that choice that you have to make for yourself. Yeah. And I love, and I just wanted to add to, what you said about the learning. And I always tell people, through the low valleys of your life and, like you said, the downfalls or whatever you want to say, is that those are stepping stones. To me, I call stepping stones of strength, because it's adding more strength than you didn't even understand that you even had. A lot of times I went through a lot of things. I know you have probably too, Barbara, that you didn't even think in your wildest dreams that you'd be able to get through. You did. In fact, you told yourself probably like, no, this ain't gonna happen. Barbara is shut down. I'm talking about me, Barbara. Yep. And then all of a sudden, if something happened occurs, that's why I always tell people, look back at where you came from, where you are now. You're still standing.
You're still standing.
That's my theme song. That's my theme song by Elton John. I'm still standing. But anyway, I had to throw it out there. That's my theme song. Everybody got a theme song. But yeah, so you're still standing. You're still here. Even through whatever. It was tough. I get it. I'm not trying to downplay that. But you've learned, like you said, Barbara, if you take that, so you're awesome with it. You take that and then you learn from it and you make yourself stronger in it. And then, you know what? Sometimes when it happens again, it's like, I think that's why, going back to since I'm the elder at the job, that's why when I think they come back to me, they say, Barbara, certain things that happen, it don't hit you, or you don't get too or whatever like that. And I said, you know what? Because I've been there.
You've been through the experience.
I've been through the experience. I said, but what really, they know some things that does get to me though. What really gets to me is when people take away the learning aspect of stuff. That's what gets to me. Because I said, now you're taking away people getting the chances to grow in whatever role or whatever they're trying to do, because you want to do it this way, or you say, well, that's a waste of time. No, it's not a waste of time, because they need to learn, That's why that's when I get on my little soapbox. But besides that, a lot of stuff, like you just said, Barbara, I've been through the experience. I've seen it before, and it's funny because most of the time it's similar, but it's just in a different year.
Right. And I truly, truly, truly believe that nothing happens to us that we can't use. It becomes part of our story. It becomes part of our story. And as we know our story, then and we were growing from it. Like this summer, I have to say, financially, it has been the most humbling, most scary time that I've had to trust, to persevere, to continue, even though I didn't know what was happening, of why things were happening, and yet I had to trust the process. And from this, so now I said to one of the other girls, and it was part of a group, and this one of the other girls that I said, now I've been through this. Nothing's going to faze me going forward, because I've been through this. I have been through this immensely pressure cooker of change, of learning curve, and how to trust a process that I had absolutely no control over. I had no control over the timing, and I had I had no control.
Yeah.
So I had to give up and just trust that, okay, it's all going to be okay. But now I'm going to be able to look at people and go, hey, just take the first, which is where people say, well, Barbara, how can you be so confident? Oh, because I've had to do it. But, just take the first step.
Most of the time when you see people confident like that, like you said, Barbara, like yourself, you've been there, done that,
and take the first step. And that's and that's all it is. It comes down to that one thing. Take the first step, because they are like, we always, like in the personal development, we always call it, you're coming to the edge. You're coming to the edge. You're coming to the edge. You don't know what to do. Okay, so you have a choice to either turn around and go back to your safety zone, your comfort zone, or you can take that one little step over the edge to see what's on the next side. But on the other side of that is success and just so much more learning. And then you go to the next edge. And that's how you grow, because we grow from glory to glory.
Yeah. So with that, we're gonna grow, and this is gonna be a series, I see. So we're gonna next time, myself, the BBs are gonna come back next time and let's do a series on this, because there's so much we can peel when it comes to change. And it starts like Barbara always said, it starts with you. So with that, Barbara, I just adore you, and thank you for always us flowing. So with that, everybody, we will see you next Wednesday. I think we do have a guest next Wednesday, right?
No, we are taking the 1 week off.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're going to do an encore presentation.
Because we are just so excited. Just some changes are happening. And so next week we are taking a week off. But you know what? We love technology, because we can take a week off and people can still see us.
I love it.
So we love it. Yes, that is absolutely. It's just one of those blessings that, thank goodness, that we learned how to change in what we do.
Yes. So with that said, we'll be doing a wonderful encore show next week. And then after that, we'll be back. But as Barbara says, I'm going to let you do your wonderful mantra.
Yeah. I mean, just reach it. Okay. You know what? Make happiness the norm. But that's also in the outtake. So, but what I want you to say to you is celebrate the things that you are and let go of the things that you aren't. Even if somebody is telling you that you're not something, don't listen to them. You are special. You are loved, and you have it within you to be anything that you want to be. So just take that first step, and no matter what anybody else is saying to you.
Love it. Appreciate you, Queen. We'll see you back again.
We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody. Well, goodbye, everybody, and thank you so much for listening to the Time to Shine Happiness Show. I'm your host, Barbara Ellison, and I look forward to seeing you next time, where we will have a great guest talking about making happiness the norm rather than the exception. Because, we believe that each and every one of us deserves to lead a happy, healthy, debt-free, abundant life, whatever that means to you. So join us again. And please, to get reminded, hit the subscribe button or the like button wherever you're listening to us. And we will see you next time. Have a great week. Bye, everybody.